welcome to another video. In today's video, I'm talking about drugs and the drug laws and their creation, the repercussions, the solutions. First and foremost, let's go back to the beginning. 1902. In the Senate transcripts, the word that starts with an N that I'm not going to say, that's referring to black folks, was used to justify the outline of cocaine. Okay? So it's literally in the verbiage, and it's tied to another word that starts with an R. It's a bad thing that nobody likes. It's somebody does it to somebody else, okay? So, I don't know. I don't know why I'm not just saying the words. I'm probably just going to continue to not say the words, to be honest. So, 1903, the following year, it's with... I think it's in general to Asian folks, but at that time, it was specifically directed to Chinese folks, right? And it's for heroin, okay? Similar verbiage. Now, I've read the Senate transcripts, not like the whole entire Senate transcripts, but I've read the juicy parts because they were published in an article I was reading back in the 1990s in High Times magazine, okay? So I've known this forever. Then there was the alcohol prohibition, and we all know how that went. And then in 1933, they went after the Hispanic folks with cannabis. Okay? Fast forward to 1971, and Nixon, you can listen to this tape yourself as well. You don't have to take my word for it. He literally is on tape saying, we're going to start a war on drugs to go after liberals, blacks, and Jews. Okay? So every drug law was written by racists with racist intent. So there has never been any, reality in the drug laws. It's just been doubled down on and triple down on, and it doesn't work, okay? And why it doesn't work is because there's a presumption that if you do any amount of drugs, you're immediately a drug addict and need to be in prison. That's the premise, period. Any amount of drugs you do, you're an addict and you need to be locked up, put in treatment. So that's just ignorant. You have ignorant people like this Sav woman that goes around to cities and points out the drug addicts on the streets. Oh, those people need to be in prison. You know, she's Asian and she's fascist. She's racist, because if you're supporting people being in jail, then you're a racist. That's your answers to things. You're just a low IQ fool that doesn't deserve to be listened to, period. Nobody wants to see addiction, but the system is literally creating addicts, okay? Because it tells you if you ever do any amount of drugs, you're a drug addict. Manifest destiny. You're putting that in people's heads. So they do it once and they're like, oh, I'm an addict now. I might as well be an addict and go down that whole road. When that's not reality for the vast majority of people. If the drug laws were sane and people got their drugs from pharmacies, then it would be an entirely different story. Now, personally, I've always looked down on drug addicts. I am a medical cannabis user, so daily cannabis user. I drink cider, sake, maybe once, twice a week-ish. Maybe sometimes more sometimes. But I don't get like drunk, it's like a 1, 2, 3-ish, Sometimes maybe I'll have 4 or 5, but whoa, super rare, okay? That's me. Oh, and then hard drugs, I've done everything. I've tried it all. And I like to feel good every day. So typically, if I ever did drugs, it was because I was partying and just wanted to keep partying. Or I was partying and wanted to stop partying, right? Depending on what end of the party you're on, okay? So, and that should be completely like, who gives a F? We should strive to raise a society that doesn't need to be addicted to anything. The way the drug laws create addiction is you're taking something that should be in a pharmacy that somebody should just have to go into, that shouldn't be an advertised product, okay? And you're putting it in the black market. So now people are, and you get horrible people, but you get fine people as well. But you will get gang style stuff and all these things. Now you have people say, let's call this guy Bob. Is Bob me? No, Bob just some fictitious conglomeration of a lot of people's stories that are very close. And this is how it works, is Bob's just a normal guy. He wants to fucking party on whatever he wants to party on like his birthday or New Year's, like once, maybe twice a year, he wants to party. But that's it, because he knows it makes him feel like shit the next week or whatever. So he's not like trying to fucking do this shit all the time. But for Bob to be able to get his once or twice a year party favors, he has to know Jim, okay? And Jim got whatever now Jim could be just a guy that knows somebody, or Jim could have, the stuff himself. But this is where the whole problem starts, is because Jim is in a business basically where he needs to sell things, right? And he's now calling Bob and pushing to Bob. And Bob, because he knows Jim, his buddy, is like, hey, can you hook me up? So now Bob's in the middle hooking somebody up. And now Bob is fucking doing stuff way more fucking often than the once or twice a year that he would be doing it if it was just a trip to the pharmacy, okay? And not to mention, a trip to the pharmacy includes all the information that you need, and you're actually getting what you are expecting to get, where in the society today, who knows who's making what, who's mixing what with what? I mean, it's crazy. And as an example, when I got busted back in the day, I had a bunch of ecstasy, okay? And all this ecstasy, because I keep it like trading cards. You buy a few, and I keep one. Because they all were different little shapes, different pill forms, right? So it was almost like a collectible thing, right? So I had a bunch of different ones, and they all had their own stories behind them. People would say, oh, those have this and that in them, and those have this and that in them. Well, I got busted with them all. So I literally got the paperwork on them all. And they only had MDA or MDMA or both in varying levels. So what everybody thought had, these have some heroin in them, or these have some meth in them, or these have ketamine in them, like all these. No, it was just varying amounts of MDMA and MDA. Okay, well, all that should not have been a thing. That stuff should just been at the pharmacy so people could just get exactly what they want. Nobody wants a freaking anonymous cocktail of drugs. And that's what buying drugs has become. And it's also become a point where you can literally, as a nation state, destabilize another nation state with drugs, all right? With the current drug laws, the way they are, okay? Now, you go back in time, and what the English did to the Chinese over Hong Kong and that whole thing, there was no real laws in place. And then China's response to that was basically just assassinate everybody. I think that's their policy, is just murder, right? And the Philippines has adopted that as a solution, and tens of thousands of people being killed. And so basically, you just have to admit that people are broken. There is all kinds of issues, and that the drugs being in pharmacies and written, when somebody goes into a pharmacy to get their whatever it is, and if they look like, bro, you're a drug addict, okay, well, sure, they get their thing, but they also get a free offer to go into treatment. Now, they're not on the streets. They're not in this. They can keep jobs. They can do everything. I mean, obviously, you don't want people flying planes. Duh, there's certain jobs that, and eventually the robots are going to do all the jobs, and everybody can be partying on occasions. But it always should be looked down on to be an addict, okay? There's one thing to be on medicine. There's another thing to be an addict, okay? And addiction is just ugly and bad, and everybody should not be an addict. But they also should realize that addiction comes in other forms. Like if you're fat, you're a food addict, and that's actually worse on your overall health than being an occasional hard drug user, okay? Just straight up. Sure, people can die immediately from drugs and all this, and a lot of that is because what they're getting, they have no idea. You're getting this at this potency today, and you're getting this at this potency tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? And all that goes away when you put the drugs in the pharmacies. Okay? So, it's literally, if you watch this video and you're law enforcement and you continue to arrest people for drugs, know that you are implementing racist laws with racist intent. The things you're doing by putting people in cages, and even all the little bullshit treatment, if it starts off with somebody being arrested, no matter your fucking level, you're still just implementing racism. That's what the laws were written for. So they're doing their jobs. They're sticking people, liberals and Jews and blacks, like Nixon said, oh yeah, you're going to find them in the prisons and all this, locked up for the most ridiculous things. And let's talk about what it's doing to our police forces. Like, I don't want to have to hate anybody ever. But you know what? When you have people that are shitting on private freedoms all the time and implementing racist laws, it's hard to say, right on, bro. Nobody has a problem with a cop that's getting the cat out of the tree, that's going after the bank robber, that's rescuing the abused children, that's doing all the stuff that when you're kicking in people's doors because they got whatever they got, and then you're stealing all their shit, and you're pulling them over, and they got cash, and now because the racists implemented all these racist drug laws and it's blown up into this big thing that now cops can actually just steal money. It's called civil forfeiture. Holy cow. Oh yeah, that's a positive society when the simple answer is just to have, in essence, no criminalization at all. None. There's laws for people acting badly. If you steal something, You're stealing something, regardless of you're hopped up on hoofy whammies or what. You're still stealing. We don't need special laws. Oh, well, you were high and you stole that shit, so that's a double whammy, you know? I mean, give me a break. There's laws for bad behavior. Criminalizing behavior just so you have control over certain portions of society, so you can just go into society and just take SWAT teams and just go after people, that is not building a healthy society, not in the least, okay? And again, no one wants to see drug addiction except underground businesses that are kept in business by the drug laws being outlawed. I mean, we saw the biggest gangs in the world were created back in the day by the outlawing of alcohol. And when Nixon freaking ramped up the freaking drug war, he knew exactly what was going to be the end result. A police state that was shitting on constitutional rights left and right, that didn't give a fuck about anything but power and control. Okay? And racist domination of a society. That's the reality. If we could just undo racist laws in some sort of, if it has racist verbiage in the transcripts, then it just gets eliminated as a law act. Okay? Now again, nobody wants to see addiction. And there's going to be a phase. We see it in Oregon. We decriminalize. Everybody from around the country comes here because they can do their shit without getting fucked with by the police. Okay, it needs to be worldwide. Because the whole world is filled with all different kinds of people. And the people that wrote all the original drug laws in this country, which most other countries' drug laws are patterned on ours. And not only patterned, but influenced and financed and dictated too. Especially when you're talking about South America. That is the most shit on part of the world thanks to our drug laws. Okay? That part of the world has seen nothing but insanity for decades because it's being financed by outlaw substances. Outlawing substances. Criminalizing behavior. Just normal behavior, wanting to party sometime. Okay, oh yeah, you did something and then you did something, you know, that's a whole different story, the thing you did. Blaming a substance for behavior is ignorant, okay? The person is to blame. And for people to be able to say and have a cop-out and go, oh, it wasn't me, it was the drugs. That's horseshit, okay? Own your responsibilities in life, okay? So having something that's a scapegoat for behavior currently under this system, the you do any amount of that, you're a drug addict and you need to be in treatment and jail and shunned in society. And some countries, they're like, yeah, you need to be dead. Yeah. So there's all kinds of other issues we could talk about, what leads people up to the drug addiction, okay? Outside of that. But mainly, we're trying to eliminate the bobs turning into addicts. That's the point of changing the laws. The people that are going to become the addicts are going to become the addicts. It's the bobs we're trying to save, okay? So if you like this kind of video, subscribe, like, peace.